Good morning. Welcome to Books by Ivan. My name is Ivan and I read books. And today we'll be continuing with An Ancient Guide to the End of Life. This is How to Die by Seneca. Become part of a whole. Seneca found great comfort in the universality of death and decay, not only for humanity but for all things. The earth itself would die and be renewed in a regular cycle repeating throughout time, according to Stoic cosmologic precepts that Seneca shared. In the two passages below, Seneca offers ideas of death universality as consolation to grieving friends. The first is addressed to Marcia, who had lost a son, the second to Polybius, a powerful freedman at the court of Emperor Claudius, who had lost a brother. Imagine, Marcia, that your father is speaking to you from the citadel in the sky. Why, he says, does mourning hold you in its grip for so long, my daughter? Why do you linger in such a great ignorance of the truth, that you think your son has been unfairly dealt with, when he has gone, whole and sound, to join his ancestors leaving his household also whole and sound? Don't you realize what great whirlwinds fortune uses to roil all things? Or that she shows a kind and gentle face to no one, except those who have the least dealing with her? Should I list for you those things who would have been supremely happy if death had only removed them from looming evils a bit sooner? Or the Roman leaders whose greatness will lack nothing if you only take away a portion of their lifespan? Or the very noble and brilliant men who had bent down with their necks laid bare for the blow of the soldier's sword? Just look at your fathers and grandfathers. He came into the power of an attacker he did not know, while I, allowing no one to act against me, abstaining from food, showed the world that I possessed a lofty, a mind as I had appeared from my writings. Why should one who died most fortunately be mourned in our house for an extreme length of time? We all come together into one place, from where, no longer enveloped in deep night, we perceive that nothing in your world is as desirable as your thoughts, nor lofty, nor brilliant. Rather, it's a lowly leaden, frail, and lit by only a tiny portion of our light. I could tell you more, that here, there are more weapons of war clashing in mutual rage, no fleets being smashed by fleas, no parricides either enacted or plotted, no forums roaring with lawsuits day in, day out. Nothing lies hidden, but thoughts are revealed, hearts are open, and life stands where all can see, along with the overview of every age and of things yet to come. It was once a joy to me to write about the deeds of a single era, done in a remote part of the world among a tiny group of people. Now I can contemplate so many centuries, such a chain and sequences of ages, the limitless series of years. I can look ahead to the empires that will arise and fall to ruin, the declines of great cities, the new ebbs and flows of the sea. If our common fate can help relieve your grief, then know. Nothing will stand where it now stands, where the march of age will level all things and drag everything away with it. It makes a sport, not just of humankind, but of places, religion, segments of the world. It will level whole mountains and elsewhere push new cracks towards the sky. It will drain the seas, turn aside rivers, and dissolve the unity and fellowship of the human race. The connection between people cut off. Elsewhere, it will drag down cities into vast chasm, shake them with earthquakes, send plague-filled gusts up from the bottom, drown with inundation every dwelling, kill off all life on the flooded earth, scorch and burn up to mortality with huge tongues of flames. And when the time comes, when the world, on its way to renewal, destroy itself, these things will strike themselves down with their own strength, and stars will crash into stars, and whatever now shines in an ordered array will blaze with a single fire, all matter set aflame. We too, the blessed soul, who have been granted eternity when God decides to fashion these things over again, will be a small addition to the enormous collapse with all things sliding into ruin. We shall be changed back into our ancient components. To Morcia. You may complain, but he was snatched away when I didn't expect it. Thus, all are deceived by their own trust and a will for gratefulness of mortality in the case of things they cherish. Nature promised no one that it will make an exception to necessity. Every day there pass before our eyes the funerals of the famous and the obscure, yet we are busy with other things and would find a sudden surprise in the thing that our whole life long we were told was coming. It's not the unfairness of the fates, but the warped inability of the human mind to get enough of all things that make us complain of leaving that place to which we were admitted as a special favor. How much more just was he who, having learned of his son's death, spoke a word worthy of a great man. I knew then, when I fathered him, that he would die. His son's death came as no news to him, for what news is it that someone has died whose life was nothing else than a journey towards death? I knew then, when I fathered him, that he will die. Then he added something of even greater sagacity and insight. And it was for that I raised him. It's for that we are all brought up. Whoever is brought into life is destined for death. Let's rejoice in what will be given, but let's return it when we're asked for it. The fates will seize hold of one person now, another later, but it will overlook no one. Let the soul stand girded for battle. Let it never fear what must be. Let it always expect what unknown. There is no single end fixed for all. For one life departs in mid-course, but abandons another at its very beginning, and barely dispatches a third who is already worn out with extreme old age and longing to go. Each, in his or her own time, we all bend our course to the same place. Is it more stupid to ignore the law of mortality, or the impudent to reject it? I don't know. To Polybius. Despite his Stoic orientation, Seneca was interested in Epicurean theories about the atomic basic of the physical world. He sounds an Epicurean note in passages, like the one below, in which he imagines that the particles out of which human bodies are formed are indestructible, and after those body decay, we go on to form other substances. There are fixed seasons by which all things progress. They must be born, grow, and perish. All the things that whirl through the sky above us, and the things below, on which we lean and take our place as though they were firm, will cease and be severed. There is nothing that does not grow old. Nature dispersed these things all to the same end, though after different intervals, whatever ails will no longer be. It won't die, but will be undone. For us, death is merely dissolution. We see only the things just before us. The dull mind, or one which has enslaved itself to the body, doesn't look ahead to what lies further off. We would more bravely endure our own end and the ends of our skin if we were anticipating that, just like everything else, so life and death change place by turns, and that the endless craft of the God set proper bounds to all things is turned toward this goal: to separate things that were bound together and bind together those that became separate. And so we will say, as Marcus Cato did after he had raced across time with his mind: the whole human race, whether it is or will be, is condemned to death. All the cities that ever obtain wealth or become the pride of foreign empires will be razed by various sort of destructions. Someday, people will wonder where they were. Wars will destroy some, others will succumb to idleness, and pistas turn into sloth, and are things that is lethal to great power, luxury. A tidal wave of unforeseen sea will swamp all those fertile fields, or a slide of setting soil will drag them down into the chasm that suddenly yawns. What reason then for me to grieve or complain if I depart just a short moment before this global ends? Let the grim mind bow to the will of God, and bear without hesitation whatever the law of the universe decrees. Either it will be released into a better life, to abide with divine things in a clearer and more peaceful way than before, or else it would surely exist without anything to trouble it. If it gets mingled into nature and sent back to be part of the world. Epistle 71.13. The idea that death waited around every corner, ready to spring at every moment, might be disturbing to some, but to Seneca gave peace of mind. Why worry about what is wholly outside your control? These two final readings, both addresses to Seneca's friend Lysilas, developed that train of thought. The first comes from the Moral Epistles, the great compilation of letters Seneca produced in his mid-60s, just before his death. The second from Natural Questions, a study of earth science, also composed in Seneca last year, or two of life. You will soon see that some things are less to be feared, precisely because they carry so much fear with them. Nothing is bad if it is final. Death is coming to you. It would be fearsome if it were able to abide with you. But it must either fail to find you, or come and then leave. It's hard, you say, to bring to my mind to the disregard of my life. But don't you see how trivial all the reasons that others disregard theirs? One man has hanged himself outside the door of his mistress. Another has hurled himself from a roof so that he might no longer hear his master shouting. Another has plunged a sword in his inwards, lest he be recaptured after an escape. Don't you suppose that virtue can produce the same result as does an excess of fear? Life cannot be free from worry for any man who thinks too much about extending it, or who counts many consulship among his great boons. Think on this every day, so that you may depart life with an untroubled mind, life which many clutch at and hold just like those who swept away by a gush of water. Clutch even at thorny plants and other rough things. Indeed, most are tossed about wretchedly between their fear of death and the tortures of life. They don't want to live, but don't know how to die. Make your life joyful by putting aside all your anxiety about keeping it. No good things benefit its possessor unless his mind is prepared to let go of it. And nothing is easier let go of than things which can't be longed for once they are gone. Therefore, fortify and harden yourself against the thing that can befall even the most powerful. The fate of Pompey's head was decided by a little boy and a eunuch. Greece's fate by the cruel proud Parthian. Caligula ordered Lepidus to bare his neck to the sword of a mere tribune, Dexter, and then offered his own to Chaerea. Fortune has advanced no one so far that her threat are not as good as her promises. Don't trust in the present stretch of calm sailing. Don't trust in the present stretch of calm sailing. The sea is stirred up in a moment. Ships poured on it, then are sunk in the same day. Believe that both the thief and the foe can put a sword to your throat. There is no slave that does not hold the power of life and death over you, to say nothing of even greater authorities. Take account of the example of those destroyed by treachery in their own home. Whether by open attack or secret plot, and you will understand that no fewer have fought into the hatred of slaves than to that of kings. What matter then how high sits the man whom you fear, when that which you fear can be done by anyone at all? If by chance you are taken captive by an enemy squadron, your captor will order you to be led away to the very place you were already going. Why do you deceive yourself, and only now, for the first time, recognize what your condition has been for a long time? I put it thus: from the time you were born, you are being led to death. Epistle 4.3. I've heard Lascelles, that Pompeii, that renowned Campanian city, has been leveled by an earthquake, and that some region near it were shaken. This happened in the winter time, a time our elders used to assure us that is free from such danger. We must seek comforts for the fearful and take away their great terror. What can even seem safe enough if the very earth is violently shaken and its most stable segment starts sliding around? If the one thing about it that seems permanent and fixed, so that it holds up everything that tends toward it, becomes mobile, if the ground loses its characteristic stability, then where will our fear find a place to settle? What refuge will our body escape to when anxious, if our fear spring from the inmost region and is drawn up from the death? What solace, never mind aid, can there be when dread has lost any hope of escape? What I ask is, fortify strongly enough. What is steady enough to protect someone else or itself? I can repel an enemy with a wall. Fortress of towering height will stop even great armies with their impediment to entry. A harbor redeem us from the storm and roofs, ward off the cascading force of the clouds and rain that fall without end. A raging fire will not pursue those who flee underground. A raging fire will not pursue those who flee it. Underground shelters and caverns dug down into the depths give remedy for the attack of thunderstorm and threats from the sky. One can change one's abode during an outbreak of plague. No evil lacks a path of escape. Never have thunderbolts burned up whole people. Plague has diminished cities but not bottled them out. But this evil spreads out far and wide as something inescapable, insatiable, destructive on a public scale. The ground swallows up not just homes and families and cities, but overwhelms entire nation and region. At one moment, it covers over their ruin. At the next, it buries them in its deep abyss and leaves no remain by which that which is no longer is can be seem to have even existed. Bare ground stretches over the most exalted cities, with no trace left of the fact that people once dwelt there. There are some who are more afraid of this kind of death because they go into the chasm home and tall, and while living are removed from the company of the living, as though every fate did not arrive at the very same end. Nature has this particular point among other instances of its justice. When the time arrives to leave this world, we're all in the same condition. There's no difference whether a single stone smashes me to bits, or I'm crushed by a whole mountain. Whether the weight of a single house collapses on me, I'm killed by its small mass, and the dust it raises, or the entire known world, buries my head. Whether I give up the ghost in broad daylight, or in a vast cavern of yawning, land masses, whether I am born alone into that chasm or a huge throng of nations fall with me. It doesn't matter to me how great a commotion attends my death. Death is the same everywhere. Therefore, let's gird up our courage against that disaster that can neither be evaded nor foreseen. And let's cease to listen to those who have quitted Campania and who have moved away in the wake of this event, and who they will never come near that region again. Who can assure them that this ground or that one stands on any better foundation? All things share the same destiny. If they have not yet moved, they are still mobile. Perhaps this place where you now stand more safely will be torn apart by this next night, or by the day that precedes the night. How do you know whether the places stand in a better condition? Places in which fortune has already used up its strength. Places propped up henceforth by only their own ruin. We are wrong to think any part of the world is excused or immune from all this peril. All regions are under the same law. Nature shaped nothing to be unmoved. Some things fall now, others at other time. Just as in great cities, one house collapses, now another later, so on this globe. But what am I doing? I had promised a comfort for danger that afflicted us rarely. Here I am, warning of things to be feared on every side. Imagine then what is sentence spoken for those who were struck dumb by their sudden enslavement as they stood between flames and enemies was spoken to the whole human race. The only salvation for the conquered is to hope for no salvation. If you want to fear nothing, believe that all things are to be feared. Look around you, see how small are the causes of our destruction. Neither food nor drink, nor walking nor sleep helps keep us healthy, unless done in moderation. You'll soon understand that we are mere trifles and feeble little bodies, insubstantial, to be undone by no great effort. No doubt this alone possesses a danger to us. The trembling of the earth, its sudden breakup and engulfing of what stands above it. The man who fears lightning and the tremor and gaping of the earth sets himself at great value. Would he be willing, if aware of his own frailty, to fear a gob of phlegm? Clearly, we were shaped thus from birth, got such well-framed limbs, grew up so tall and strong. As a result, if the portion of the earth did not move, if the sky did not thunder, if the ground did not give way, we could not die. The pain from a little fingernail, not even the whole nail, but a hangnail about to split off from its side, finishes us off. So should I fear earthquakes, when an excess of saliva can choke me? Should I dread waves rouse from the sea's depth, or worried that a flood tide, drawing up more water than usual, will sweep in? When a drink that goes down the wrong way has killed men, off by suffocation? How foolish to fear the sea, where you know that a droplet can destroy you. There's no greater comfort in the face of death than mortality itself. No greater comfort for all those external things that terrify us than the fact that numberless dangers lies within. What is more insane than to shrink from thunderbolts and to crawl underground in fear of lightning flashes? What is more foolish than to dread the trembling of the earth, or the sudden slide of a mountain, or the inundation of the sea that has been hurled past its shores, when death is at hand everywhere, popping up all around us, and nothing is so traveled as to lack sufficient force to ruin the whole human race? So there's no reason those things should throw us into confusion, as they held greater pain than ordinary death. Indeed, it's just the reverse, since we must of necessity depart from life at some point and brave our last. Dying for some larger reasons is a kind of joy. We must die. We must die. Sometime, someplace, though the ground stands firm and stays within its own boundaries, not tossed about by any harmful force, still it will lie on top of me at some point. What matter if I trusted on myself or it trusts itself on me? It's cleft and smashed apart by the immense power of some unknown evil, and drags me down into its vast depth. So what? Its death? Is death more bearable on a level field? What do I have to complain of if nature does not want me to perish by an inglorious death, but heaves a part of itself into me? My friend Virgilius expresses it superbly. My friend Virgilius, my friend Virgilius expresses it superbly in that infamous poem of his. If all has done let me fall from heaven, one could say in similar fashion, if fall, I must let fall amid the smashing of the world, not because it's right to wish for a national disaster, but because it's a greater comfort in the face of death to see that Earth too is mortal. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it will be the end of today's reading, and we are halfway through it. Wow, almost done. I hope you guys enjoyed today's reading. If you have any book recommendations, please let me know. With that being said, my name is Ivan, and this was An Ancient Guide to the End of Life. As always, have a good day and be good people. Bye.